You Googled something about Excel today, maybe yesterday, maybe 5 minutes ago, right before you opened this video? And I'm willing to bet it was one of these 6 things. So instead of taking you down a 45-minute rabbit hole, let's go with 6 topics, 1 minute each, real talk. Follow me to be ahead. So what are the topics that we're going to cover today, and where do we start? Let's start with VLOOKUP. We're going to talk about what VLOOKUP is. Then we're going to talk about SUMIF and SUMIFS. Then we can get to pivot tables, conditional formatting, filters, drop-down lists. And as always, if you have any comments, concerns, you want me to cover something else, I'm more than happy to in my future videos. Always open to feedback as well. What is this data? So let me quickly take you to the tab, which is our Community Grants tab. This is going to be the basis of the data for this video. I've also given you a link for this data so you're able to download it, look at this file, and play with it yourself. What this data is all made up data, and it's actually not that important. But to set the context, we are an agency that is monitoring 2 programs, and we have our applicants who live in a particular address, county, in a particular state, and we are looking at to see what the work was done, who did the work, how many employees did they have, what kind of an income do they have, and how much monies were they reimbursed for that work. The first topic that we're covering is VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is something that everybody's scared of. Some people may even get it wrong, but it is something that is easy to do, easy to look at, and I'm going to teach you just how. In my scenario, I'm also going to double click this to make it fit into the screen. In our scenario, we have the applicant's income band. You can see it reads very low, it reads low, extremely low, and other options. But we do need to know that, hey, this is not how we can submit it to the federal agency. They're looking for a particular code associated with these income bands. So what I've done over here is created a control table. I have taken my income bands and I've given them the code of where the very low is VL50, extremely low is EL30, moderate is MM120. Those are the values that I need in my file. What I've written is this right here. I say VLOOKUP. What am I VLOOKUPing up is L2 right here, this value right here. Where am I looking it up? I'm going to the tab called Control Tables, and I'm looking at between A1 to B5. Let me take you there right again. From A1 to B5. Also know that putting the dollar signs around that thing means it locks it. This lets me able to copy and paste this formula into the cells below it without me having to re-reference it every time. It has locked it in place. 2, 0 after that one. The 2 means return the second column. One more time, I'm going to flip my screen and we're going to look at the control tables. What am I looking at? It shows the value that I'm matching on the left-hand side. That is your column 1. It doesn't matter that it's in column A or it's in column B, but it just has your reference tables have to start with what you're looking at on the left-hand side. After that, I've told it to return column 2, which in our case is the code. The 0 that was in my formula tells me to do an exact match. It does not let Excel come up with its own match. It says look for exactly the word very low space parentheses 31 and so on and so on. This allows you to get a good match. With that formula written, I'm going to go back to my tab so you can see it again. VLOOKUP, L2, go to the control tables, look at only 2 columns between A1 to A5, which are your 4 rows, return me the second column based on the match, and then do an exact match. 0 tells it to do an exact match. I'm going to click through it. Where am I looking for? What column am I returning? And exact match. Based on that, you'll see if I copy this formula down, so I'm going to do copy, I'm going to do paste, paste, you see that these values are changing while it's looking up everything in column L. One other trick to know is I can always in Excel click on that little dot right there and copy all of this down. Now, how do I know I got it right? Let me change this value to something completely random here. And you will see that that returns nothing. It gives you that error of not applicable. In my future videos, I will also talk about how you could use these values, the NA values, to get yourself a result. What you saw me do right now was do a VLOOKUP with a range. One of the other things that Excel is really good at, I'm going to go back to my control tables and I'm going to take this, which you see is an exact replica, and I'm going to format this as a table. I'm going to pick the blue color. I'm going to say my table has headers, and I'm creating the same table, same information as a table. You can see it gave it a name of table 2. I can go here and change the name of the table to something that I like. So let me go ahead and do income buckets. My rule of thumb is never to have spaces in names for tables. It helps Excel go to faster. Is it the end of the world? No, but I prefer not to have any spaces. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to write this code again, equals to VLOOKUP. I'm going to say, look this value up. Where do I find it now? I'm going to go back to my control tables, and it's going to say income buckets all. Now it's referring to your range as a range name of a table. You don't have to, then if the table grows as you enter more rows, this is actually better than having as is values, because you can enter more values, and as long as they're part of the same table, you do not have to rewrite this code or change your code. So this comes in very, very handy later down the line. And we can talk about that one again. I'm going to click my handy dandy tool. That will copy it to the last value. Okay, let's pick up the pace here and let's talk about the difference between SUMIF and SUMIFS and where do I use them. Let's go facts and then action. So if I look at the job cost in column M and I was to sum it up, I would use our handy dandy sum function, where I sum it all up and I've written equals to sum all of column M. You see that that total is around 239,822.62. Now, what if we only wanted to sum if the total was greater than 5,142 and 44 cents? We had to be really precise. So I'm looking for projects. I'm saying the same thing, sum if all of column M, but I've given it in quotes that the value has to be greater than 5142.44. When I write that, it goes through every cell that there is, and it will keep adding in the column that you have told it. It does not look at any other columns. It looks at the columns that you've told it to sum anything that is greater than 51422. Now, what if you wanted to make it a little bit more dynamic? In this case, SUMIFS come in handy. I've told it to sum column M, just like we've been doing, but based on column J, only at things where the state is Georgia, or the opposite of that, where the state is Alabama. In my data, you know that there's only 2 states. So when I add these 2 together, it adds up. I'm going to move my mouse down to 28, 239, 822, and 62. What does SUMIFS allow you to do? It allows you to base your criteria on a different cell other than the one that you're adding up, whereas SUMIF only works in one column or one range. Can you use SUMIFs to be exactly like SUMIF? Absolutely, because then you're giving the same criteria, you're typing a little bit more, but you're summing if column M, and you're basing your criteria on column M. I personally prefer SUMIFs because it gives me more options, but let me know what your favorite. Okay, let's take it slow again. Let's talk about pivot tables. What are pivot tables? Pivot tables are one of my favorite things in Excel because what it allows you to do is to slice and dice your data. And today we're only going to scratch the surface of it. We can talk about filters on it. We can talk about how to make them more dynamic. We can talk about how to give them slicers and to really go with slice and dice, how to make them look different. But today, we're just going to scratch the surface, start from the very top. What am I going to talk about? Why use pivot tables? Pivot tables, think of your reports that your IT team gives you. They have key performance indicators. They have things that have been grouped and things that have been summarized. That's what we're going to do. I've selected my data in community grants. I'm going to hit insert. I'm going to hit pivot table. I know that it's selected all of my cells, and I'm just going to put it in a new worksheet. Gives you a blank canvas to play with all of your fields over on the right hand side and your 4 quadrants. Your filters, what do you want to see across the top? What do you want to see on the right? And what values do you have? One of the things that I like to do with pivot tables is right click on them, go to pivot table options, and and things are when doing a demo, always something. So let me hit refresh. Let me do pivot table options, and in the data, I don't like to save the data source with a file. We'll be talking about that a little bit more, but I think, yes, you have to do an extra step of refresh, but it makes your file smaller when you're trying to share, and it lets you update the data as you need to. Let me go ahead and let's do something simple. Let me say for every state, for every county, I'm going to see what I'm going to group by. Then I'm also going to say that the income band is across the top. I'm going to say, let me have my project number. I'm going to click on it and make it look a little bit better. I'm going to say, let me have a count, but I'm going to rename my column to be a £. I'm going to change the number format. I'm going to say, put it a numbering format. I'm going to want 0 decimal places because you cannot have half projects. I'm going to say, let it do a count. I'm going to say, okay. And I'm going to rename this label to just be state / county / income bucket. I'm going to change my grand total because I don't like the word grand total to read total. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to read total. And you can see that I'm already looking at, hey, in Calhoun County, where we have 26 people in extremely low. You can see the totals that now have comma separated, but maybe that's not what I'm looking for. Let me move the county up to that one. I don't care about the counties at this point. I just want to know how many people are there in different buckets by different states. That's one way of looking at it. Let me quickly flip this around. And you see how dynamic pivot table is. We've taken the same information and turned it on its head and said there are 507 people in Alabama, 7 projects, which are for the extremely low income people. Pivot tables allow you to have dynamic control over how you visualize your data. I'm going to switch tabs, take you to the pivot table. I've done something very similar where I've taken the state, the funding name, the county, and the average days that it took by program to start to the end, and then the amount that we reimbursed by county. I've put the filters in where I can filter on things like extremely low. That will again help you dynamically slice and dice your data. I've shown you subtotals because I can go into a pivot table and I can design it into having subtotals, grand totals, different types of layouts, and I'm able to give you full grand totals and subtotals. One of the things I talked about a little bit when I was doing my extras was why do I like to not have data in my pivot tables? This kind of explains what's going on. It reduces the file size. Yes, you have to refresh it, so it takes you a little bit extra step, but it is easier to share. It is lower risk on sensitive data being moved around. That is in case if the base data is not part of the same Excel and you wanted to share just the sliced and diced analysis. And the other in my extras, you could use the data from the pivot table or any other data to generate Excel-based graphs. If you want to learn more about it, please let me know. Okay, let's pick up the pace. Let's talk about conditional formatting. Forward-thinking analysts use conditional formatting. Conditional formatting lets you put a color, a value, a performance indicator on your cell based on the value. I could have done one here where if it was A, it colors it one way versus B if it colors it the other way. In this case, I have looked at this 27 days. Formula is not important, but if you want to learn it, you have access to it. I've extracted the number out of that one. And what I've done is I'm going to do it right over here. I'm going to say conditional formatting. I could do highlighting the cell rules. I can do the top bottom rules. I could do the data bars. I can do color scheme. I'm going to do, in today's one, I'm going to do icons. I know I did red, yellow, green traffic lights before. I'm going to go with a different shape this time. Same thing. Now, it did it on its own. I don't know what it's done yet, but what I'm going to do is go back there and I'm going to say manage rules. I'm going to say edit the rule. It's saying use the icon set. I'm going to say I'm basing it on number, not the percentage. So again, I'm basing this on number. I'm going to say when it's over 5, give it a yellow. When it's over 10, give it a red. So what's taking too long to complete the project, when it's less than 5, this is good. So now greater or equal to 5, it's a yellow, less than there is red. I'm going to say show icon only, and I'm going to hit OK. It's applying this rule to the whole thing. I can duplicate it. I can add more rules. I can go back and edit it. Again, when it's less than 5, it will give it a green. If it's between 5 and 10, it will give it a yellow, otherwise a red. And here we go. Again, I could have left the numbers like I did here, but I just wanted to show you the different functionality which can bring your data to life. Again, forward-thinking analysts. Rounding it out with the last 2 items that we're going to talk about. In data analysis, sometimes you need to know what your data looks like. So I'm going to go to the data tab. I'm going to hit filter. It by default goes to the last cell that it can think of. I like to select the whole thing before I hit filter, but you don't always have to. What it's going to let you do, it's going to give you the options that is in the data, and you're able to, again, slice and dice and look at those details. So now I'm only looking at moderates. I'm going to say, show me only moderates in program A who are based in let's go with Gwinnett County. That way, looking at the bottom left, you have 15 records that match that requirement, and you're able to filter your data, look at it, and again, part of slicing and dicing. So much more you can do with it. Advanced filters, we can talk about text-based filters. That's for our next video. Now let's come to dropdown. I'm going to go ahead and clear the filter. Dropdowns are used for data entry. If I go to the data tab, and I go to data validation. This is part of it that, hey, usually it can take any value. What if you only wanted somebody to let you enter a whole number or a decimal or only a date? In my case, I'm going to say I can only let them select from a list. I can do option A, option B. When I do that one, I'm able to only let them select one of the two options in cell dropdown. But if they try to enter something else, it will give them an error saying that this is not valid. Let me do it again. Let me go to data validation. Again, this is just scratching the surface. So much more we could do with it. I'm going to click this little handy dandy travel me button. I'm going to go to control tables, and I'm going to say that I could make it where it's dynamic. For now, we're just going to lock it. Again, $signs means let's lock it from H2 to H5. No matter where I copy, that is what it's going to be. I'm going to click here. I'm going to say OK. And now my options are validated, ready to pay. Oh, there's nothing here. But what I could do is I'm going to delete this. I'm going to copy. You're going to give you a headache real quick. I'm going to go ahead and paste. And now this value is in every cell. So this value of mine has not been started. This project is potentially a misrepresentation. And this project is been validated and ready to pay. Now I'm ready for data entry. See you in the next video. Thank you so much. Again, the topics that we covered today were your VLOOKUP, your SUMIF functions, your pivot table, conditional formatting, filters, and drop-down lists. If you want to go deeper into any one topic, do you want to talk about anything else? If you want to just give me feedback or say hello, I'm looking forward to it in the comments. Thank you so much. And I will attach this file to my video as well. Feel free to play with it. Have a great day.